At 17, my adopted sister accused me of getting her pregnant. My family disowned me, my girlfriend left, and I vanished. 10 years later, the truth came out, and they showed up crying at my door. I didn't answer. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to write something like this. But after what happened 10 years ago, I guess I just need to get it out somewhere people might actually listen. My family erased me overnight because of one lie. And now, after everything, the truth finally came out. I'm not here for pity. I just want to tell you how it all went down. I, Jackson, 27, male, was 17 the night my life ended without me dying. My family was having one of those big Saturday dinners. Grandparents, uncles, cousins, the whole group. My parents loved putting on a show when the house was full. Mom was always in her element when there were eyes on her, talking loud, bragging about how our family sticks together. Dad grilled meat outside, while my brother and I hauled chairs from the garage. And then there was Anne, my adopted sister. My parents brought her in when she was 8 because they always wanted a girl. She fit right in from day one. Quiet, polite, shy. I used to help her with homework, taught her how to ride a bike, even defended her when kids teased her for being adopted. I never thought of her as anything but my sister. That night, she was acting off. She wasn't eating, kept fidgeting with her hands. I figured maybe she was sick or just tired. After dinner, when everyone was in the living room, she stood up out of nowhere, shaking, and said she needed to tell everyone something. I remember the sound of her voice. It cracked like she was about to cry. Then she said it. Jackson, she forced me. It didn't even register. Everyone froze. The room went silent except for the clock ticking. My brain didn't process it at first. I thought she meant something else, maybe a joke gone wrong. Maybe she was confused. Then she added, I'm pregnant. My dad's hand was on me before I could say a word. His fist connected with my face so hard that everything went white. I hit the floor, my teeth buzzing, ears ringing. My mom started screaming like someone had died. My brother stood there shaking his head, muttering, Jackson, what the hell is wrong with you? You're disgusting. Dad, I didn't... I tried, but the next hit came before I could finish. You sick bastard, he yelled, face red, eyes wild. You brought shame to this family. Anne was crying into Mom's arms, trembling, saying she was scared. My aunt pulled her close, whispering, It's okay, sweetie, you're safe now. My brother Jake stepped forward, spit landing right by my shoe. Get out, he snarled. You don't deserve to breathe the same air as us. I looked around at all the faces. People I'd known my whole life. Not one of them looked at me like family anymore, just disgusted. I said, She's lying, my voice cracked. I swear on my life she's lying. No one cared. My mom screamed, Don't even say her name. Don't talk to her. Someone, I think my uncle, called the police. By the time the officers showed up, I was sitting on the porch, bleeding from my mouth. One of them asked my dad if I was the suspect, and he nodded without looking at me. They didn't even cuff me rough. They could see I was just some kid who looked half dead. But still, riding in that back seat with the sirens echoing felt like being buried alive. At the station, they asked questions I could barely understand. When did it happen? What were you doing that night? Did she say no? I kept repeating it never happened, none of it. They didn't book me. There was no proof, no nothing. They let me go in the morning. I remember one of them saying the words statutory case under his breath. Anne was 16, I was 17, barely a year apart, but they still had to ask every question in the book. They took statements, called in a social services rep, even checked timelines from our phones. In the end, there was nothing to hold me on, so they sent me home with a warning to stay available for more questions. But when I stepped outside, the world already knew. Our town wasn't big. By sunrise, half of it had already decided I was guilty. I didn't go home right away. I walked around until my legs gave out. When I finally got back, all my stuff was piled on the front lawn. Clothes, school books, even my backpack. My dad stood by the door like a guard. Get out, he said. His voice wasn't angry this time, just cold. You're done here. Dad, please, you know me. I would never... Don't call me that. You're not my son anymore. I tried to reach for my mom through the doorway. She turned her face away, clutching Anne like she was the victim of a crime scene. Jake slammed the door behind them. I stood there. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely pick up my bag. That night, my phone buzzed. It was Emma, my girlfriend. We'd been together a year. She knew me better than anyone. She whispered through tears, "I believe you, Jack. I swear I do. But my parents, they won't let me talk to you. They think it's true. They said if I ever see you again, they'll call the cops. Please don't do this," I said. She sobbed, "I'm sorry, I can't lose them." Then she hung up. I stared at the phone screen until it went black. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. I sat in my car the rest of the night behind a gas station 2 towns over. I stared at the cracked windshield, watching rain streak down in crooked lines. In less than 12 hours, I'd gone from a normal kid with a family, a girlfriend, a future, to a criminal in everyone's eyes. Every time headlights passed by, I thought it was my dad's truck. Thought he'd drag me back to finish what he started. But no one came. When the sun finally came up, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My face was bruised, my shirt still had blood on it, and I realized something simple but final. No one was coming to save me. And that's when it hit me. My family hadn't just kicked me out, they erased me. That thought sat in my chest like a stone. As I drove through the night, I didn't have a plan or a map, just the clothes on my back, a backpack, and $200 I'd had in my wallet. I drove until the gas light blinked red. The engine coughed near a sign that said, "Welcome to Maplewood." I didn't care where I was. I pulled into a parking lot behind a row of stores, the kind that looked half abandoned. My hands were shaking from hunger and cold. I'd been living off vending machine chips for days. A help wanted sign was taped to a diner window across the street. I stood there staring at it, trying to build the courage to walk in. The bell above the door jingled when I entered. A man stood behind the counter, broad shoulders, gray beard, deep lines in his face. "Can I help you?" he said, voice rough like gravel. I saw the sign," I said. "I can wash dishes, do anything, really." He looked me over. My clothes were wrinkled. My shoes still had mud from the roadside. "You ever worked in a kitchen?" "No, sir." He grunted. "You look hungry." "I'm fine," I lied. He sighed and nodded towards the back. "Name's Andy. Sink's in there. You start now, you get a meal after your shift." And that was it. No questions, no paperwork, just work. The kitchen was loud, hot, and I scrubbed plates and pans until my hands went raw. The first meal Andy gave me was a half-eaten burger and fries from a customer who didn't finish. I didn't care. I devoured it like I hadn't eaten in weeks. When closing time came, I tried to hand him back the plate, saying I'd find somewhere to sleep. Andy wiped his hands and said, "There's a room upstairs. Ain't pretty, but it's got a bed and a lock. You can work it off." That was the first act of kindness I'd had in weeks. The room was small, maybe 10 feet across, with a stained mattress, flickering bulb, and wallpaper peeling from the corners. But it was a roof, and the floor didn't move under me. I collapsed on the bed and slept for 14 hours straight. Over the next few days, I fell into a rhythm. Andy didn't talk much, but he'd grunt things like, "Good job." Those words meant more than any apology I ever gotten. One night, about 2 weeks in, I came downstairs to lock up and found Andy sitting at the counter reading the newspaper. He looked up at me and said, "Kid, what's your story?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "Got a customer in here today. Some trucker passing through. Said he saw your picture in a paper a couple towns over. Some family thing." My stomach dropped. I started shaking. "That's not what it looks like. It's a lie. My sister, my adopted sister, she made it up. I swear I never—" Andy raised a hand. "Calm down, kid. I don't care what they say." I blinked at him. "You don't?" He leaned back on the stool. "Everybody's got a story. You're here working. That's what matters. Keep your head down, do your job, and rebuild your life. The rest will sort itself out." It took a second for those words to sink in. For the first time since that night, I didn't feel like a monster. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cracked wall, trying to process it. Andy didn't know me, but he still gave me a chance. My own family couldn't do that. One night, I was looking at my contact list on my phone. I hesitated before calling home, but I needed to hear my mother's voice. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe they'd realized the truth. She answered on the third ring. "Mom, it's me," I said quietly. Silence. "Jackson?" "Yeah, I just wanted you to know I'm okay. I found a job. Don't call here again," she said. Her voice cracked. "Your father doesn't even want your name spoken in this house." Then she hung up. I stared at the phone until the screen dimmed. That was the last time I ever tried. Weeks turned into months. I worked double shifts and saved what little I could. Andy started teaching me small things: how to fix a leaking pipe, patch a vent, check a thermostat. "Learn to fix things, kid. It's the only way to survive," he'd say. One night after closing, curiosity got me. I searched Anne's name. There she was, smiling in pictures, belly round, family around her, holding pink balloons that said, "It's a girl." My mother stood beside her, proud, holding a cake shaped like a baby carriage. My brother was in the corner of the photo, smiling like nothing ever happened. My throat burned. My stomach twisted so bad I had to close the laptop. Then I decided I'd never be Jackson Smith again. After that night, something in me switched off. No more trying to explain, no more hoping someone would come around. I was done being the version of me they buried. I threw myself into work at the diner. I'd be there before sunrise and leave long after closing. I fixed leaky faucets, cleaned grease traps, learned how to replace filters in the old air vents. Andy noticed. One afternoon, while I was unclogging the sink with half my arm down the drain, he said, "You ever thought about learning this stuff for real?" I looked up confused. "Like plumbing?" He chuckled. "Nah, bigger. Heating, cooling, air systems, HVAC. People always need heat or cold, kid. That skill feeds you forever." The way he said it stuck with me. I was tired of scrubbing plates. I wanted something that lasted, something that couldn't be taken from me. A few weeks later, Andy handed me a flyer from the community college down the highway. "Night classes," he said, sliding it across the counter. "You'd be good at it. You pay what you can. I'll cover the rest until you're on your feet." I stared at the paper for a long time. Nobody had ever offered to help me like that before, not even my real family. I signed up the next day. The first few months were brutal. I'd work 10-hour shifts at the diner, then catch the bus to night school, fighting to stay awake through lectures about compressors and coils. Every time I fixed something, when cold air came out of a vent, when a broken unit roared back to life, it gave me a rush like I was fixing myself piece by piece. Andy kept pushing me. "Don't just get good, get so good they can't ignore you." By the time I earned my GED, I was already halfway through the HVAC program. I started doing small repair jobs on the side. Andy's house, the diner's vents, a few regular customers. When the certificate came in the mail, Andy hung it in the diner's hallway like it was his own kid's diploma. "Not bad for a runaway," he said, patting my shoulder. I laughed, even though it still hurt to hear that word. With Andy's help, I saved enough to buy a used pickup and a set of second-hand tools. I quit the diner and started working full-time for a local HVAC company. One summer afternoon, a coworker named Derek got accused of stealing cash from a client's kitchen counter. The boss was ready to fire him on the spot. Something about the look on Derek's face, the same panic I'd seen in the mirror 10 years earlier, made me step in. "Check the vent," I said. Everyone stared at me. I climbed up, pulled the cover off, and sure enough, the envelope had been sucked halfway into the duct from the return air. The client probably set it too close to the vent. Derek almost cried. The boss apologized to the client. Afterward, Derek shook my hand like I'd saved his life. Andy heard about it through a supplier and called me that night. "Good job, kid. You didn't just fix air, you fixed a mess. That's what separates men from mechanics." That stuck with me. Years passed like that. Work, sleep, eat, work again. It was simple, predictable, safe. But sometimes at night when I got home, I'd feel this hollow space inside me, like there was a whole other life still buried somewhere. One night, while doing invoices, I'd opened an old account I hadn't touched in years. My hands shook when I logged into social media. I shouldn't have done it. There they were, my family, smiling, laughing, and standing in front of a birthday cake with a little girl, her daughter, who looked about 10. My mother was there, holding her, my dad's arm around them like nothing had ever happened. My brother standing in the background, grinning like he didn't spit at my feet once. The caption read, "Happy birthday to our miracle girl. Family is everything. Family." I scrolled through the photos until my chest hurt. Anne looked happy, radiant, like someone who'd never ruined a person's life. I closed the laptop and sat there in the dark, shaking. For years, I'd imagined them falling apart without me, but they didn't. They just replaced me. That night, I sat in my truck in the parking lot after my shift and made a decision. I went home, deleted every old account, every trace of the name Smith. I cut ties with the past like cutting a loose wire. By morning, I filed the paperwork for a legal name change, Jackson Winter. It was my grandmother's maiden name, the only person who ever showed me real kindness before all this. When the new ID arrived weeks later, I stared at it for a long time. The picture looked different somehow. Stronger, harder, not a boy anymore. That was the day I stopped running from what they did to me and started building something they could never destroy. 10 years later, I had my own company, Winter Heating and Air. Just a couple of vans, 3 employees, and a steady list of clients who trusted my work. We weren't fancy, but we were reliable. Life had finally leveled out. It was early summer when everything cracked open again. I was fixing an old air unit behind a bakery, sweat running down my back, when my phone started buzzing non-stop in my pocket. Unknown number, hometown area code. I ignored it twice. The third time, it wouldn't stop. I wiped my hands and answered, "Yeah, this is Winter." There was silence for a second, then a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade. "Jackson." My chest tightened. "Who's this?" "It's me, Emma." I froze for a second. Everything around me, the fan noise, the street sounds, disappeared. "Emma? How did—" She sighed. "I know I shouldn't call, but I thought you should hear this from someone who actually believes you." That sentence alone made my throat close up. She continued, "Anne's been arrested." I blinked. "Arrested for what?" "For lying," she said. "For accusing another guy the same way she did to you." I leaned against the van, dizzy. "She— what?" "The guy she accused this time fought back. He got a lawyer, all of it. Turns out she made up the whole story again. And during the investigation, she confessed to the first one, to you. She said she lied back then, too." The words hit like a sledgehammer. I'd imagined hearing something like that for years, but it didn't feel like I thought it would. There wasn't relief, just silence. Emma kept talking, her voice shaking. She told the police she got pregnant after a one-night stand with a local drug dealer named Vernon. He disappeared when she told him. She panicked and blamed you because you were there, and everyone believed her. "Jackson, they cleared your name, officially." I couldn't speak. My hand went numb holding the phone. She hesitated. "I just thought you should know. I'm sorry it took this long." "Thank you," I finally said, my voice low. Before I could say more, she whispered, "I'm married now, kids, but I never forgot what they did to you." I smiled faintly, though she couldn't see it. "You were the only one who believed me, Emma. You don't have to feel bad for that." We talked for another minute, awkward but soft. Then she said goodbye, and that was it. I sat in the van for almost an hour afterward, staring at the steering wheel. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or laugh. My name was cleared, but 10 years too late. By morning, the calls started. Private numbers, then emails.
My company inbox even got one with the subject line, "Please call us back." Curiosity got the better of me once. I answered a number I didn't recognize. "Jackson," a shaky voice said. I knew that voice immediately. My mother. "Don't hang up, please," she said quickly. "Anne told the police everything. We didn't know." I hung up. They didn't know. They didn't care to know. Later that week, a local newspaper reached out for a statement. I said nothing. I wasn't interested in headlines or pity. I wanted something better. Silence.
But silence didn't last. My brother emailed me next, saying he'd been young and stupid and hoped we could start over. My dad left a voicemail. "We just want to see you, son. We made mistakes." Mistakes. Mistakes are when you forget someone's birthday. What they did was a choice. So instead of replying, I wrote letters, not the kind they expected. No forgiveness, no soft words, just truth. I told them about every night I slept in my car, shivering, about the moldy room above the diner, about Andy, the stranger who gave me shelter when my own family threw me away. I told them how it felt to burn my school ID because their names made me sick. How it felt to see photos of them smiling around Anne and her daughter while I was washing grease pans for scraps. I told them they didn't just ruin my reputation, they killed my home, my trust, and every bit of peace I might have had left. I ended every letter the same way. "You didn't believe me when I told the truth. Now you can live with it." I never mailed them. I just stacked the letters in a shoebox and left them in my desk drawer. That night, as I sat in my workshop going through invoices, I looked around the tools, the vans, the company name painted on the walls, all built by my own hands. Everything I'd lost was gone for good, but everything I'd built couldn't be taken from me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I felt written again, not by them, but by me. But peace doesn't stay quiet for long. Once the truth about Anne spread through town, the same people who threw me away suddenly remembered I existed. It started with a knock on my office door one afternoon. I was fixing a thermostat unit on my desk when I heard someone call my name. "Jackson?" I froze. I turned, and there she was, my mom. She looked smaller, older, like someone had drained the life out of her. Her hair was gray at the roots, her hands shaking as she held a casserole dish covered in foil. "I made your favorite," she said softly. "Chicken and rice. You used to love it." For a second, I couldn't move. The smell hit me, and my stomach twisted. I remembered the last time she'd cooked it, the night before everything blew up. I stood up slowly. "Why are you here?" Tears filled her eyes. "I just want to see you. To say sorry. We were wrong. Anne lied. We know that now." I leaned against the counter. "You're 10 years too late." She wiped her nose. "I didn't know what to believe back then. She was crying, and your father—" I cut her off. "You didn't even ask me. You didn't let me speak. You kicked me out and told me never to call again." She stepped closer. "Please, Jack." "Don't call me that," I snapped. "You lost that right." She flinched like the words hit her physically. I pointed at the door. "You should go." She hesitated, setting the casserole on the counter. "At least eat this, please." I stared at it. "Throw it out when you leave." When the door closed behind me, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. 2 days later, my dad showed up. I was out on a service call when I saw him waiting outside the office, leaning against his truck like he owned the place. He smiled like we just had a regular argument years ago. "Hey, son." I didn't answer. "You've done good for yourself," he said, looking around. "Business, trucks, employees, I'm proud of you." "Get to the point," I said. He shifted his jaw. "Your mother's not doing great. She cries every day. I figured maybe if we all sat down, cleared the air." Cleared the air. I almost laughed. "You beat me and threw me out. You left me homeless. You cleared the air that night when you told me I wasn't your son."
He sighed, frustrated. You have to understand, it was a different time. Things looked bad. So you hit first, asked questions never. His face tightened. You don't have to keep holding on to hate, son. I'm not holding on to hate. I pulled out my phone. I'm holding on to self-respect. He frowned. What are you? I pressed a button. Security? I've got someone trespassing at the front. Big guy in a red jacket. His expression changed instantly. You're calling security on your own father? You're not my father, I said. You're a stranger who ruined my life. The security guard from the next building came over a few minutes later, asked him to leave. Dad muttered curses all the way to his truck, slammed the door, and peeled out of the lot. When the silence returned, I just sat there at my desk, staring at the same spot he'd stood.